Can Phase 4 redeem Season of Discovery?
When Season of Discovery was announced at BlizzCon, it was the most hype moment of the event for me. I mean, yeah, I'll probably end up checking the retail expansion out as I always do, and as much as I was looking forwards to Kata and have been enjoying it so far, I was kind of expecting that to happen. Season of Discovery just came way out of left field, and while some form of Classic Plus would have been on many people's bingo cards, it was still crazy to see Blizzard really commit to it, to give us that vanilla experience once again, but this time with some things being different. We had phased level caps, new craftable items and profession quests, no PTR testing to keep things hidden, new class identities such as Mage Healer, Shaman Tank and so on, and of course the runes that they teased at BlizzCon. And whilst early on for Season of Discovery the phrase Classic Plus was thrown around a lot, both by Blizzard and the community, it's become apparent that's not really what it was meant to be. For me personally, Classic Plus cannot be seasonal for a start, and it can't be an expansion either. If there's a cutoff point to the content, that's fine if that's what it's meant to be, but MMORPGs are meant to be these persistent worlds that you can come back to. And as for expansions in World of Warcraft, they just tend to replace content instead of building on it. What Season of Discovery has really been for me has been a big testing grounds for implementing new ideas and seeing how they're received, both from the point of view of adding totally new content into the game such as the Ashen Veil or STV PvP events, to trying to balance classes a bit better than they did in original vanilla. But
dude, I feel like it's even worse, man. I honestly feel like the vanilla is almost balanced. When you look at SOD versus vanilla actually feels balanced compared to this, because SOD is just it's so crazy.
The levels of hype for Season of Discovery on its launch were...
Dude, that's not cope, man. I don't know, dude. Rogue was hella fun, dude. SOD is crazy. Like, SOD PvP is ridiculous, man. You're ignoring the debuff limit of Classic? No, I'm looking at the overall picture, like, PvE, PvP, just how the classes feel, right?
Massive. I bet Blizzard...
He just wants Warriors to be the only gods again? Dude, Warriors are the only gods, man. The Warriors pop the fuck off. They literally do so much damage. They're crazy.
Blown away by the sheer amount of people resubbing to see what all the fuss was about. After all, if Blizzard could deliver...
Balance if you play Warrior, Priest, or Rogue. Well, okay, okay. Maybe you're misunderstanding me a little bit. I'm thinking about PvP as well, not just raiding. I'm not thinking of just raid stuff, right? I'm thinking about like the overall picture, PvP and stuff like that, right? For me, SOD, the fun thing about SOD was the PvE and the raids and the dungeons and stuff, but the PvP not so much. Right?
On this, it had the chance to be huge.
PvP is only 2 classes though in Classic? What? Rogue and Frost Mage? If you think WoW Classic PvP is only Rogue and Frost Mage, you've not done Classic PvP. What? No, you can literally play anything in Classic and do fine. You have engineering, dude. It is though? No, it's not. Dude, Shadow Priest, a Warlock, hello, Warrior with fully cranked up engineering.
Hello from Brazil.
Hunters,
Guzu.
you can pop off. Hi, Brazil!
And as it went live, thousands of people jumped back into the world of vanilla once again.
Warlocks have one build? Dude, you never played. You never played Trexpo. You don't know what you're talking about.
This time, of course, planning to do a full review of Season of Discovery once all is said and done, we can have a small and brief retrospective to where we've gotten to where we are today. Phase 1 of the season came around and boy did it deliver. Leveling to 25 could be done very casually in a short space of time. Runes were easy to come by during leveling, the BFD raid was 10 man on a 3-day lockout, there were loads of people running ults, and the unviable specs of vanilla became viable. If you ever had dreams of playing a Shaman Tank or maybe doing something that's never been seen before in WoW, such as a Mage Healer, this was your chance to do it. There were some issues, don't get me wrong, Ashen Veil had to undergo half a dozen changes in a reset or so, and Hunters could solo any other class in the game using their Scorpion pet with Eyes of the Beast. It was hilarious and broken in equal measure, but it was fresh. And you know what? Fresh is fun. It's really hard to get fresh wrong. Soon after that, Phase 2 dropped, raising the level cap to 40.
Phase 1 was just so much better than anything else.
And this is where momentum began to shift, and notably, slow down. Despite the leveling being a lot more bite-sized than it usually is in vanilla, being on the foot for the majority of the time started to take its toll with just how long everything in the game takes to do. And whilst runes were given to you super early in phase 1, by phase 2 oftentimes you had to be well into your level 30s before you'd see anything new gameplay-wise. And when you combined runes such as the campfire one that starts in Desolus and ends in Arathi Highlands, or Dark Riders with no riding and needing to do them across multiple characters, the disjointed travelling started to wear heavy on those who would have invested into alts in phase 1. The STV PvP event rolled around and it had to get just as many changes as Ashenvale did to get it in a solid state. And it also started to highlight the crazy levels of power creep we'd seen. The whole game...
I think the STV event was fun. The thing that just made it not really that enjoyable was the fact that it was just always so laggy. Like, you just couldn't play the game half the time.
Playing PvP was one shot or be one shot. And Gnomeregan as the new raid had some fights where not knowing the tactics would just wipe you, and it definitely upped the difficulty compared to BFD. And as we currently are, we are in phase 3. Alongside raising the level cap to 50, one of the core new features of the phase was the PvE focused nightmare incursions, which, not to go into a rant you've heard 100 times over by now, we'll save that for the full review, believe me. But this was not a great feature for many players. Simply put, they just ended up being the best way to do everything, from gaining experience, new gear, gold, even a rune. And
this was a huge miss, man. I don't know. They could have done so much more cool stuff with it.
Core gameplay loop of them mimicking the Cenarian hold rep was just not that much fun either. Runes continued to be lengthy journeys by and large across the world, which made prospects of doing this on an alt less fun. And by this time we had well over a dozen runes to collect if you did start to want a new character. And
I really didn't mind the rune collecting stuff. I mean, to be fair, I also only played 2 characters, so it's not like it was crazy, but I didn't mind it. I thought it was kind of fun going out and like doing like a special warrior quest or, you know, like a shaman thing or somewhere. I had no issue with that, but I guess if you have like 5, 6, 7 alts, it gets quite tedious. But I think anything would get tedious if you had that many alts though, right?
But those runes needed more than one person.
Not everybody has chat to carry us through everything though. I just become a streamer, easy.
To get as well. And for the raid, Sunken Temple started off being comically overtuned before being gradually nerfed down to a more reasonable state. Even then, the loot in there was often not that exciting up until Blizzard buffed it recently, but it feels as though it's a bit too little too late. Which gets us to where we are today, looking ahead to phase 4. And
I will admit, I don't know how, it's been a while since I played Sword. I don't really have any interest to log in before phase 4, honestly, man. I mean, we'll see. I'll give phase 4 a try. We'll see how it goes. But if it ends up just being Molten Core or like Onyxia's Lair slightly redone, I'm not going to be very hyped, man. I'm not going to be very excited.
Phase 4 has to achieve quite a lot if it wants to bring Season of Discovery back to some of its former glory. You know, we're just over 6 months into the season at the moment. Crap. This is a server which could very well last about 12 months or so total. It's about time we got to level cap, isn't it? One of the first things to mention about Phase 4 is that it will have a PTR. And honestly, I'm glad we're getting these back. No PTR...
You're already shitting on it? Man, you're already shitting on it. How am I shitting on it? I'm just saying, I'm not... if it's gonna be just like Molten Core or Onyxia's Lair redone, I'm not gonna be very excited about it. That's just the truth. I would like to see something new if it's for Season of Discovery. We've already seen Molten Core redone in Season of Mastery. I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy Season of Mastery. I actually quit in Blackwind Lair before. I didn't even do Blackwind Lair. Alright, fuck it, I know, but let's have hope. Yeah, but I don't want to be like, I don't want to like just hype myself up for something that like I don't know what's going to happen with, right? We'll see, like if they end up doing some new raids and some new content and shit, that could be super hype. That could be super, super dope, but we'll see.
Was initially a cool idea to keep things fresh, but people go through content at such a pace and word spreads so fast via forums, Reddit, Discord and so on, that it just didn't have its desired impact. Pretty much everything, bar some runes which were bugged in Phase 1, were found out in a matter of a day or two, and the discovery aspect insofar as finding how to do the new stuff only really happened for those on the Discords who could play all day every day. For the average...
Not really though, I mean you could could just like not Google it. I don't know why people are so like, oh man, it's ruined for me. Just don't Google it. Just don't go on Wowhead, right? If you want to discover it for yourself, you could do that, right? I don't know. I feel like it's fine. And I think there's nothing bad with like talking with each other about runes. Like, oh my god, did you hear Billy found a rune over in Barrens where you gotta talk to someone? It's like, holy shit, that's cool, right? Let's go check it out. I feel like that's fine. I don't know. Don't get me wrong, I'm not shitting on Sword. I've actually had a great fun. I had a lot of fun playing Sword, but Phase 3 for me has been a little bit disappointing.
Player,
in terms of like, you know, overall stuff. You know, I got my own goddamn character in Sunken Temple, which was freaking dope. But yeah.
Runes without looking them up online after Phase 1 would have been really challenging. The game just doesn't throw you that many hints. Blizzard also left the ability to data mine future content as a possibility, so at the end of the day, what was the point of not having a PTR? I know with retail they encrypt things which could be story spoilers all of the time, so they can do this if they want to, they just didn't. Anyways, we're getting a bit off track here, but the point is, Phase 4 will have a PTR. They say about this, we're going to spin up a limited time PTR specifically focused on combat and class testing for Phase 4. We plan to include level 60 templates with all runes and abilities learned, and we tentatively plan to provide some sort of access to the level 60 tier set bonuses. We also plan to provide access to training dummies and some raid content as well as battlegrounds so players can test their new builds.
I think it's fine to doing a PTR because it's gonna make for a cleaner game, but I hope that they don't release, when they say raid content, I hope it's nothing like new, right?
So for once we're going to be going into this phase with far more testing done on our full end game builds, and hopefully this means there won't be any more huge outliers which are just basically useless from the get-go or broken beyond belief. I'm not expecting perfect by any means, but for me this is a positive step. For what it's worth, the classes and how they play in raiding are more interesting than they were in vanilla for me.
This is true. There is more to the classes in raids, and they do feel more unique to play than in vanilla.
Departure from a one-bottom rotation is a good thing. When we hit 60, vanilla also just has tons more endgame by default, so you have a lot more to do weekly than just your 45-minute Sunken Temple. Blizzard also mentioned they will match the content releases similar to how it was in 2019. So what that'll mean is first up we'll have Molten Core and Onyxia, and a few weeks later, that's in their words, we'll see Blackwing Lair. And then
actually a few weeks, man. But it was not that fast though in 19, was it?
So that will have future raid content, as well as some surprises in between.
That's what I'm hyped for. If this is what, this here, surprises that we're planning to add between the major raid tiers. That's what I have my hopium, like my, you know, my copium for, man, okay? Like that's what I think could be exciting.
I have to say vanilla raids with their world buffs, consume stacking and group-wide buffs might not be my favourite version of how raiding has worked in this game, but you can't say there isn't a lot of stuff worth doing, right from Molten Core for your binding runs all the way to Naxxramas. You might also remember when they first teased Season of Discovery at BlizzCon, they showed a few panels with Scarlet Monastery, Gnomeregan, and the Karazhan Crypts, alluding to possible future content, and it's been 50-50 on that happening or not so far. I'm not gonna lie, if we didn't get Kara Crypts now, it would be quite the letdown after not seeing anything new done with Scarlet Monastery, but who knows how much time they'd have had to work on everything. Also, we have to consider raid size at level 60, so we know Molten Core will be 20 player, this has been confirmed, but Blizzard did say after that they have some desire to return at least one raid to being 40 player, and that downsizing raids may be more difficult than expected. And from what I can tell, people are super split on this. I did a poll a while ago, which got around 14,000 votes, with 41% of people wanting raids to go back to 40 player, and 59% saying no.
I don't know how you guys feel about it. I mean, I don't know. I feel like for SOD, double it, make it 80 man. I think for SOD, I don't know if 40 man is the play, man. I don't know. If like in vanilla, in like era, in like, you know, normal vanilla, 40 man is fine, right? Because that's kind of like the game. But I think for SOD, it might be too much if 40 man. I think a lot of people will just not play. Those 41% will not be officers or raid leaders, by the way. Yeah. definitely true, Bluefoot. These people saying yes are not people organizing. Because organizing a 40-man raid is pain. It is actual pain. Okay? 40-man mythic raids will be 5 tanks, 10 healers, 25 DPS, and 8 healers. Dude. Oh, God.
To say 40-player raids are one of those original vanilla design experiences which you can only get from that version of the game. But these days, the logistics of putting groups that big together is just really difficult.
Yeah.
Maybe for a seasonal server, it's better to go on the side of accessibility, despite it not being entirely vanilla-like. For me, it feels as though most people that really want to organize 40-player raiding are doing it on Classic era at the moment. And
Yep. That's probably very true. Yeah, and honestly, there's been a big boom with Era lately anyway, right? With the fresh and everything like that, right? 20 people can be pain, then you get 15 people whacking off doing nothing. I don't mind 20-mans, honestly. I think 20-mans are fine, but like 40, it's... Oh,
given all the changes on Season of Discovery, it's a bit of a different player base. This one's a really hard one to call. We'll see what they end up doing with it, but they do seem to want to have at least one 40-player raid.
Okay.
Blizzard has also mentioned they plan to re-itemize many endgame pieces of gear too. There will be new tier set bonuses too, aimed at the new class combos, as well as existing specs. And
this is pretty cool. They're actually getting like Red Paladins a thing, and boomies and whatnot. That's pretty dope.
I'm expecting some form of tier...
No 40-man. Why do you hate WoW? Why do you hate plants? Water the plant. Use your Twitch Prime.
Token to be heavily attached to this too, by the way. In vanilla, tier just straight up drops and there's only one version of it, which is why your druids would get their full tier set in 2 raids, and other classes will be fighting over theirs for weeks, if not months.
Yeah.
Imagine in Season of Discovery you kill a boss and it drops your warlock tank tier for the 3rd time in a row. That's not going to feel too good, is it? We need to see what Blizzard end up doing with incursions too. If we follow the release schedule of Vanilla Classic, then the Green Dragon World bosses will be added into the game around the same time as ZG. And if you don't know what that means, well, you know those portals you go through to do incursions? They're gonna have massive Green Dragon World bosses put in front of them who will one-shot anyone without a serious raid group behind them. I remember people in Season of Mastery would layer hop to farm these world bosses, but I'm pretty sure Blizzard fixed that at some point in time. Anyways, this happening in the world seems as though it could be a time to wrap up incursions here, and maybe just leave some easy way to cap out the rep in the game. I also think it's important that
they're probably just gonna do like some teleport thing where you talk to the NPC, the quest giver, and they teleport you inside or some shit.
Incursions don't become the meta for leveling once again.
Oh, I mean, yeah, dude. Oh, yeah. It probably will be, honestly.
They definitely got people out of dungeon grinding, but I don't think it was much of an improvement. Questing for me has always been solid in this game, and I think it should be the fastest way to level through quest reward XP. Dungeons can always be a viable alternative, which is slower, but they have their own benefits, and that you don't have to deal with open world competition, and the aspect of farming pre-raid bis as well. Yeah. Speaking of dungeons, the wild offering system was interesting from Phase 3, and as much as I like it in theory, I hope Blizzard have taken some lessons from how people used it, where they just rushed to the end bosses. You
could just 10-man Marauder, just speedrun to Princess. Just do that 50 times, and then you got your items.
Put together a raid group for any dungeon in the game other than Scholomance or BRD in vanilla. Don't ask me why, that's vanilla for you. But usually you would never ever do this because you can't complete regular quests in a raid, more competition for loot, and it would affect your experience gained. The only
I think the main thing I didn't really like as much in Phase 3, sorry, I can't think for a second, is that there wasn't really a reason to farm Priebus. Because you kind of had Priebus with no more gear, right? You just had your no more gear, and then you were ready for raid. That's pretty much it. And then when you did incursions, you got that full 5 set from the incursion sets, and then you were ready for raid. There wasn't really a reason to like farm anything. At least for me. I don't know, maybe it's different for other classes, but yeah, I played Warrior and Shaman, right? We were stuck in Mara for weeks farming the dagger. Well, you don't, I mean, that's like a Blade of Eternal Darkness is like a specific, like really, really rare big item, right? That's a different thing. You could say the same thing with SGC in Warrior and Next Phase, right? No matter what devs do, people find a way to cheese it. People will always choose the path of least resistance. And that's something you should keep in mind as developers, I think, right? If they made like incursions this powerful, people will just do them, right? There's a difference between farming Abyss and be ready for raids. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like you could get ready. You could be level 50, instantly go raid. Farming a best in slot like Giga Item of Hell is different, right?
I guess dungeon that you always make a raid group for is UBRS.
Then people wouldn't say you didn't have Pars or Prebus. Yeah, but that's just how people are, right?
But that's its own thing. The rest of the time you never value having a raid group going into a dungeon unless we have this weird scenario such as Wild Offerings. But I do think the Wild Offerings system has potential. As amazing as dungeons are in vanilla, they tend to have a very short lifespan. People blast through them, they get their Prebus, and then 2 weeks later you're trying to pay a tank to get him to come along and run the dungeon for you.
Isn't that just every version of WoW though? I mean, why would you, when you have your BIS, when you have all your stuff from dungeons, why would you keep running them? Unless there's something you can farm, right? Like, people don't do it just, you know, to do it. There needs to be something to do. And I guess those offerings could be something, right? I don't know, maybe?
I remember during 2019 playing Classic on Gehenna
For fun? I think very few people, there probably is some, but I think very few people will do a dungeon with nothing to gain from it at all, just to do it, right? I think there's very few people that will do that, right? To help others, clearly a foreign idea to a streamer. No, of course, if you have a group and you're farming something together and you're like, hey, you want to come help me with this dungeon? Sure, you can do it, right? But yeah, that's like within like a guild or with friends or whatever the heck, right? That's different.
Alliance. This was a very popular server back then. By the end of the second reset, it was a struggle to get a tank for Scholarmance because the incentive just isn't there to keep running them once you're done with them. Wild Offerings maybe could help in this scenario.
No, I mean randoms. Yeah, I don't mean like, of course, if you're in a guild, you play with each other and you help each other, right? Right? Friends are a big one, and guilds, yeah, of course. I mean, but that's why it's an MMO. You play with people that you like to play with, right? Like you do dungeons together and you do shit together. And can I just do Heroic Dungeons and Retail Mythic Plus? No way I'm going to progress raids in Cata Classic. I've been enjoying Cata Classic for what it is right now.
A bit more life to this 5-man content. Moving on to PvP, so we've had 2 new PvP events this season, Ashenvale in Phase 1 and STV in Phase 2, and then in Phase 3 there was nothing new, but those are a lot of Battlegrounds and 2 PvP events, so I actually think there's not a bad amount of content if you are into PvP balance aside that is. But in the final phase there are 2 events in the game already, those being in Silithus and Eastern Plaguelands. The kind of issue with them is they're both, well, how can I put this? Pretty terrible. Maybe they could be used for some future PvP related content.
Dude, I've never done those, man, in vanilla. Like, I've never touched those towers ever.
But as it stands at the moment, there really just isn't a ton of substance to them. In Silithus, you pick some items up across the floor in the zone and carry it to a guy and then get a small buff. Yeah. And the first faction to reach 200 gets a rep buff within the raids in Silithus. And in EPL, it's like a King of the Hill system with a bunch of towers. And the more towers you control, the more various buffs you get within the zone. And that,
I guess something that's cool about these things is like they can incentivize world PvP, right? So like, you know, you can maybe meet people around this area. There's like world PvP going on, like organic world PvP, right?
That's it. Maybe there could be some more rewards tied to these activities, or just some kind of gameplay change which would incentivize people to go and play them. Either way, these
or go gang low-level shitters. I guess, yeah. I guess so, yeah, right.
Are 2 PvP-related open world activities in the game right now, so hopefully they are reworked a little bit. Yeah. The PvP events so far have been kind of hit and miss. They've all come out as fresh ideas and have needed so many changes to get them in a good state. And
I didn't really, I kind of enjoyed the STV event, actually. I thought I would like it less than I did. I hated that it was laggy, but I liked the idea behind it though.
And the power creep from new runes and gear has made the PvP meta extremely burst heavy. I mean, to be fair, it already was in vanilla, but this is on a whole other level. Blizzard have been testing reducing damage taken and reducing the effectiveness of healing in PvP to try and course correct the bursty nature of the season. Not gonna lie, feels like they're just putting resilience in the game without you having to actually change your gear set, but
to be fair though, man, it was too bursty, like straight up.
shot. If it stops people from getting one shots, I guess that's the goal.
Yeah.
It really feels to me like over the years, balancing both PvE and PvP under one talent and ability system has proven an impossible task to do, and we're just seeing this play out once again for I don't know how many times. Take Shadow Priest for instance. You take one to a raid and it'll barely appear on the DPS meters. You take one to a battleground and they're probably going to be one of the most valuable assets on your team. Also to think about in the final phase will be the ranking sets from 7 through 10, which were very good back in vanilla and were used as pre-raid gear, if not phase 1 bis for some classes. Will these sets be outdated with the new raid gear? Will they be updated? And will this gear release at the start of phase 4? And then later on we have the epic PvP sets from rank 12 to 14, which people tend to agree they're somewhat similar to the power level of the gear released in AQ40, but again, will this gear be outdated by that point in time? Will it already be in the game earlier than that? I remember in Season of Mastery they put ranking out with the availability to get rank 14 gear straight away, and people just rushed towards that and ignored a lot of the raid-based upgrades. Still waiting for information on this by the way, but I think it's just something important to think about and be aware of. Overall, I reckon the baseline content on offer up to level 60 in vanilla is already quite strong, and even without adding anything new, there's a bunch to keep people occupied, at least for a while.
Phase 4, no matter how it turns out, it'll be fun. When it comes out and the leveling is out, you know, gearing and raids, it's gonna be fun no matter what, right? But I hope that it's gonna continue to be fun.
PTR class balancing with full rune sets and tier gear is going against what Blizzard initially set out to do with keeping things hidden. But so far that's
Dude, guys, new like MMO, new WoW expansions or fate, they're always fun at first. Like farming your pre-biz, getting ready for the raid, that's always fun. But will it continue to be fun? That's the question.
Pretty mixed results due to lack of encrypting data mine info and certain runes being pushed to live in either a useless or broken overpowered state. Hopefully whatever the new content they've got cooking is a bit of a better surprise than what incursions were. And speaking of incursions, I hope the meta isn't going to be leveling through them again. I think you're going to lose a lot of people if they see that the moment the patch drops. Phase 4 is definitely the content patch to win back a lot of players following Phase 3. Phase 3 itself has done quite a bit of harm to the seasonal community. Myself, I've really not been thinking that much about Season of Discovery since Cataclysm's come out till I decided to make this video. But once Blizzard puts out some more information, we learn a bit more about the new runes, and we hear about what Blizzard are planning for Phase 4, I expect there to be quite an uptick in interest to the seasonal server. I think Season of Discovery has the potential to bring back a pretty decent chunk of players, at least for the initial hype end game and pre-bis gearing period of time. That always tends to be fun. But Phase 4 really does have its work cut out if it is going to get people to come back
50-50.
and then stay. So whilst where we're at right now is definitely the low point of the season, vanilla just tends to deliver time and again. And personally, I know I'm going to be checking out Phase 4 for sure and seeing how everything is in the game. How's it looking for you though? Are you planning to go back to the season to see what's up? What are you hoping to see change? And what are you maybe looking forwards to as well? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in. And I'll see you on the next one very soon.
Good video. I mean, it's interesting, man. Like, it's gonna be very, very interesting to see how they're gonna pan out Phase 4 and like what the raids will be, like what's gonna be the pre-biz, like what's gonna be the new runes, right? Because there's a lot to keep in mind when it comes to SOD. Chances are very slim I will be returning to SOD. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna give it a try. I'm gonna level up my character. We're gonna see how it goes. I'm mostly excited for some hopeful new content and the new runes, right? That's gonna be the main thing for me personally. Check out Willie's video though, chat. Willie is a very nice WoW content creator for YouTube. He makes some good informational videos, so check him out. The further Blizzard goes from retail, the more hype people get, but they can't help themselves but slowly turn back into retail. I wonder why everybody leaves. I don't think it's like a retail versus vanilla thing. Like, I don't think... people always try to like put it up against like, oh, it's retail versus vanilla. Not really. I don't think that's the reason for that. I think there's a lot of other reasons why maybe the population has been dwindling a little bit, right? I hope for something more, discover new classes, runes, and altered raids, since those things are cared for. I wanted the actual mysteries, maybe new quest lines or dungeons, something that could make max level interesting again, like the sleeping bag quest chain. Yeah, I agree. The thoughts of doing the 7 Riders of Wild offering again just as an alt kept me off the game. Fair enough. Retail hosts like 80% of all WoW players, maybe more. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think that's the issue with it. I don't think that's the reason for why it's happened like that. But yeah, I'm loving Dragonfly Season 4 right now. That's good, you're enjoying it. We'll see. I mean, when Sod Phase 4 comes out, I'll give it a try. We'll see what happens. I'm hopeful that we're gonna get some new content and something to do that's like fresh and new. But who the heck knows? If anything, it'll be interesting to see what Blizzard are trying to cook up, right? We'll figure it out.